My gearbox broke in the last episode with my £2,000 Range Rover. Just after I'd spent an entire video talking about how reliable this car had been, the gearbox went into limp mode and got stuck in gear. However, after switching the car off and turning it on again, it seemed to revert back to normal. But there is one thing that can tell me whether this L322 is just entering a mild midlife crisis or in fact it's about to give up completely. It's this, my trusty diagnostic scanner. Now, there's an infamous code by the name of something like incorrect gear ratio. Now, if this is stored in the system, that's a pretty bad sign. Normally, according to forums and specialists, that indicates that the gearbox is brown bread. It's toast, or certainly it's in the toaster. It's on its way to being brown bread, if you see what I mean. It certainly means the gearbox is probably going to need replacing. Whether it's today, tomorrow, in a year's time, it's hard to say, but it's not a good thing to have. It means it's on the way out, essentially. So fingers crossed we don't have that code stored, because this £2,000 Range Rover will very quickly become a £5,000 or £6,000 Range Rover, which wouldn't be ideal. But I do this in the name of science. I buy these cheap cars that were once not so cheap because I want to see if you can run them reasonably, not on a shoestring. I appreciate these need maintenance, absolutely, but can you live the 2000s lottery winner dream for not ever so much money? Well, we're finding out episode by episode at the moment with this L322. And according to this, auto gearbox, check gearbox, read fault code, no fault codes. Now, that's good news, but I have to be honest, that's not what I was expecting, because off camera about a week ago when I was filming the last video and it failed, of course I did immediately read the codes and I did have the incorrect gear ratio code stored in the car. So I know that it did have it at one point. Obviously I've cleared it since then and it hasn't reoccurred. So as you know, that incorrect gear ratio code is essentially like waving a red flag in front of a raging bull, except the raging bull is my wallet and the red flag is saying expensive repair. It's not good news, and the car did have it after that instance of it going into gearbox limp mode. Now, I've spoken to Ross at Glenrans and he firstly was very apologetic and said, well, I'm quite surprised that that's happened, given that the car had no symptoms that it was going to do anything like that. We did all our due diligence before changing the gearbox oil, and the car was ready to receive it, and by all means, like I say, it's really improved the car. It could be something to do with the way I was switching in between low range and using the transfer box and all the like, doing some off-roading stuff. I've been doing more of that lately, and maybe the car's not being used to that, so that could have triggered something. But the best advice we're going off right now is to keep using the car and monitor it closely. So how on earth am I going to deal with this gearbox size conundrum then? Well, to be honest, it's quite simple, and the good Lord and Saviour himself, Matt Goodwin, aka High Peak Autos, I think said it best, in that you buy the car that you want and you fix it when it breaks. And it's no different here. That is the exact approach I'm going to take with this Range Rover. Since I received the incorrect gear ratio code and then didn't receive it, it's been a good week or so of driving this car. I've still done a couple of 100 miles in it, I think, over the last week. And touch wood, the car's not given me any other issues. It's still got some hesitancy around here, sort of, I think, third gear accelerations. It doesn't really want to get going, and you've got to give it quite a lot of power, and then it will all of a sudden kick into gear. It's a little bit slow to respond and a little bit hesitant, but otherwise it's fine. And actually, when you drive it a bit harder, sort of using kick down, and you're a bit more aggressive with it, it responds very, very well. It performs fantastically, in fact. And that is a gorgeous DB9 Volante in green with a green roof. I wonder how much that's up for. That is beautiful. But maybe the car sensed a little bit that I was getting frustrated and thinking about sacking it in, and then realised it was flying a little bit close to the sun and has decided to stop giving me troubles for a while. think these cars are a little bit like naughty children, you know, they'll always sort of push it just as far as they can go, just to your breaking point, and then they'll do something that just makes you instantly forgive them because they're sweet and they're charming and you love them. That's how it is with these L322s. So I think the plan from here on out essentially is to just continue as planned. The only real difference is I'm going to be putting, I don't know, I'll give the gearbox 3 months. So I'm going to put aside, I'll put £500 or £600 aside for the next 3 months. So hopefully if it does go wrong in 3 months' time, we'll have nearly enough money to get it sorted, sort of saved and away, and so we don't need to worry about it. But there's things I want to do with this car, as I mentioned, some more off-roading, but also restoring it to its former glory. I think I've decided I want to go down the route of bringing this back to 2002 spec. As much as I love the way it looks with the supercharged rear lights and these tyres, as we're going into the summer, I want to get some less off-roady, more roady tyres on here, maybe some Pirelli Scorpions, I'm not sure what else is recommended, and also back down to, I think, the 19-inch 5-spoke wheels that this would have originally been on. So get that original look, and then the amber rear lights, amber side repeaters, and there's a few other bits and bobs to tidy it up too. I ought to do something about this steering wheel as well with the paddles. It doesn't really bother me all that much, but again, it's not original. But the main thing is the car is running, touch wood, really well. And I'm lucky that previously my L322s, back when I had a 3.6 TD V8 and before when I had another Jivany Green 4.4 V8, they at those times were actually my daily drivers. Now I've come to my senses a little bit these days because with an average of 15 miles per gallon, the amount of miles that I do, this is just not really that sensible. And the Jaguar, do you know what, is just as comfortable as this, and it's 3 if not 4 times more economical and cheap to run. But luckily for me right now, this is almost just a fun car. It's a YouTube project car, and so if it does go bang all of a sudden, it's fine. I'll just get it fixed when I can. And if any of you are watching this thinking about buying L322s, maybe you don't have a particularly big budget, maybe you've got £5,000 so you can afford to, say, buy a £3,000 L322 whilst keeping £2,000 in the bank, I would just do it. And you know, you can buy nice ones for 10, 12, £13,000, but just my theory with that is that any L322, regardless of how much work it's had done, there's always going to be something else that crops up. So I would always err on the side of buying something cheaper, higher mileage, but in the spec that you want, with a bit of money in the bank, because there's always going to be something, right? So you might as well spend less on the car, keep more for repairs, but just make sure it's in a specification that you really truly like, because then, as I have with this one, it makes you want to keep it forever. The thing is as well with the whole gearbox situation, I'm pretty confident the gearbox is going to go at some point. Who's to say when it will be? But as long as I've got the money in the bank account for it, which I should do, as long as it doesn't happen next week or tomorrow, I'm quite almost looking forward to have a new / reconditioned gearbox, because it will probably improve the car massively, whether it's in terms of economy, but I would imagine mostly just in drivability and responsiveness. So in a way, I'm almost, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm almost looking forward to it breaking, because it just means I'm going to get a nice new gearbox and it's going to be great. So I think I'm happy to say with this video, crisis averted. I did really think I was going to be making a piece on this being, you know, sort of it, or at least for a while, because I spoke to Ross at Glenrand's, and essentially I think the ballpark cost to get the gearbox done, so that involves taking the gearbox out, sending it off to a really good place that they use, and then having it brought back, replaced into the car and coded in and all the rest of it. Ballpark £3,000. Now I'm sure you can get it done cheaper than that, maybe if you go direct to the gearbox reconditioning place, but I would want a garage like Glenrand's to deal with it for sure. But yeah, £3,000 is the sort of ballpark that I received for it, if anyone was interested. So obviously in that scenario, that's what's that? That's almost 35% more than the purchase price of this car just to get the gearbox sorted. And then I jokingly said to Ross at Glenrens actually that we could go down that road, get the gearbox replaced, and then the next week the engine would blow up. Which, I mean, you know, it's all fun and games, but it's potential, isn't it? But as I've said countless times before, and other people like High Peak Autos have said countless times before, the key with these cars, well, it's not only to have a bank with some money in for repairs, because things are going to break, you should do that with any car, but it's just knowing where you get into. It's expectation versus reality. As long as you're expecting the odd thing to go wrong, then it means when things are working perfectly as they are with my car right now, you can just really, really enjoy them. And that's what it's all about. Hey guys, also as the weather's getting better throughout the summer, I know there's lots of you that comment saying I own L322s, I've had this one, I've had that one, you've made me buy this car. I wonder if you guys would be interested in doing some sort of L322 meetup. Now, I don't know if anyone can research this for me, but is there a Guinness World Record for the most number of Range Rovers ever together, or specifically L322s? I don't know. I don't know if we can set a world record, potentially get, I don't know, 200-300 of them together down somewhere suitable. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, and if you have an L322, whether you'd be up for coming along if I organised something like that. So fingers crossed the next thing you see with this Range Rover won't be a doom and gloom title. It will be using it for something I've intended to buy it for, and or restoring it and replacing some things to make it look a little bit more original. Otherwise, I've got a Maserati update coming very, very soon. Actually, that's not good news if I'm honest with you. And the Jag, well, we've got all sorts coming for the Jag. We've got brakes next week, got new tyres coming for it, and I'm also getting that car remapped. So if you enjoy any of the videos that you're seeing on the channel at the moment, I would much appreciate it if you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one very, very soon. One microphone, one camera. The car was warm, by the way, although it will seem in the video like I'd just started it and I was leaving. It's already warm. YouTube magic, don't worry. There she is.